So hello, welcome to the video and welcome once again to Heathrow's Terminal 2. I joined the Aegean scheme as my way to get Star Alliance Gold, a process I talk about in some detail in this video up here. One of the reasons I chose Aegean is that they make it relatively easy to requalify as Gold. So about a month ago I was looking at the trips that I had planned and seeing how far they would get me towards renewal, and I would have got pretty close going the long way round, by which I mean not taking any flights on Aegean. I would have been probably 90 to 95% of the way towards renewal. And then I started to think that might give me a little bit of a problem. I'd have about 6 weeks after the end of the last trip I had booked, and I might have an annoying number of points that I needed to gather to renew the Gold. So I started to wonder whether it might make sense to sneak in a quick trip on Aegean to gather the 4 flights I need to unlock the shortcut to requalification. As luck would have it, literally a day later, an email popped up from Aegean with a 50% offer on flights to Greece. So about an hour later I'd found and booked myself a very interesting little trip from London to Athens, continuing on to Rhodes, which was costing me £211. Never been to Rhodes, and from a little bit of googling, it's like Corfu City I believe, and that it is open year round, and so I do have some hope of finding somewhere to get something to eat when I'm there. Now when you get to Gold with Aegean, they send you 4 upgrade vouchers which you can use on flights on their airline. So I rang up and I asked to be upgraded on the 2 legs to and from London, the longer legs of the trip. And Aegean doesn't make it easy to see whether that's worked or not, but I think the flight back up to London has been upgraded, but my flight today down to Athens hasn't. First world problems. There's still time I suppose, but at this point in time it looks like I'll be travelling in economy on that first leg. Aegean also offers a bid for upgrade process, and long-time viewers of the channel will know that I find it very hard to go past those without giving them a click, and so I did lodge a minimum bid to upgrade the flights today from Athens down to Rhodes. It's only an hour, and I obviously thought it wasn't worth spending an upgrade voucher on a 1-hour flight, but I did think it was worth spending €25 on it, and that has indeed hit. So I will be in business class for that last leg of the trip, even if I'm not for the first. So if you'd like to see what the trip down to Athens is like, and I believe Aegean has returned its service to pre-pandemic levels, so it could be quite interesting to see what that looks like these days, then stick around. Hi, I'm Matt. I've lived in 5 countries on 4 continents. I've flown over 1.4 million miles. I've visited over 100 countries, every American state, but I'm nowhere near done. So subscribe to the channel so you can come with me on my next trip. So, into the terminal, and although I could build some jeopardy by speculating as to whether I got upgraded, you'll have seen the thumbnail and the description to this video, so you'll know that I wasn't. I guess that the midday flight on a Monday is a popular time to travel, as the plane was very full. I stopped by the check-in desk even though I had printed a boarding pass from home. I thought there may be a chance to use my natural charm and charisma to squeak an upgrade, but the business check-in line was quite lengthy, so I decided not to bother. My Gold status afforded access to the fast-track security even though I was travelling in economy, but somehow I got caught up in an overflow queue for the general security area. First time I'd seen this overflow queuing area in use at Terminal 2, hence I hadn't realised I needed to avoid it. Fortunately, I was able to sneak through, and the fast track queue was very short and efficient. Let's count that as a big Gold card win. I had 4 lounges to choose from as a Gold card holder travelling on Star Alliance through Terminal 2. Count that as another Gold card win. 3 of them are by the B gate, which is a long hike to get to and a long hike to get back from, as I was confident that my flight would depart from the A gates. I will take an evening flight from T2 at some point, which will allow me to complete a comprehensive lounge crawl, but for today I restricted myself to the 4th lounge and the only one by the A gates, operated by Lufthansa. And to continue the run of Gold card wins, this was my first visit with that status, which afforded me access to the Senator Enclave within the wider lounge. How exciting! A separate docket was provided which opens the magic door into an area that was essentially identical to the main lounge. The beverage offer was the same. I did note that spirits were available after I'd not seen any during my previous breakfast time visit. and the food offering was the same. I don't really understand this. Let me know in the comments if you have any insights into Lufthansa's strategy here. I suppose the room was quieter and so was a little more relaxing, but in every other way there's no real difference between the regular and senator areas, which I gather is the case in most of Lufthansa's lounges. Which isn't to say that it's a bad offering, it was actually really good. Far better than some of the contract lounges other airlines force you to use in Heathrow these days. The food was abundant, varied, and it was very tasty. The drinks options were excellent. Some premium spirits brands were included, even if, once again, the beer tap was not a success. It cannot be my technique that's at fault, even if every single beer tap I come across misbehaves, surely. After a very relaxing hour, I headed off to the gate, A26 that day, which is actually the furthest possible A gate from the lounge. Still not a long walk though. There was a little bit of a delay, but I used another gold card privilege to be one of the first to board. As you'll see in a moment, I might have been better off minimising my time in the seat. Today though, we had the pleasure of a 2-year-old Airbus A321. I'd picked a seat in row 37. I'll come back to why later. Did you know that the A321 is only 2 metres shorter than the Boeing 757? I think of the 321 as a small short-haul jet, while the 757 sits in my memory as a much larger mid-haul plane, but they're actually quite similar in size. An increasing number of carriers now fly the A321 across the Atlantic, but I hope Aegean never does with those seats, as they were really cramped. Seat Guru says they have 30 inches of pitch, but Seat Guru is wrong. Aeroloper.com is another seat resource I use, which tends to be much more detailed and is far more aesthetically pleasing too. It's well worth a bookmark if you like that sort of thing. The link will be in the description below. That site shows that row 37 actually had only 28 inches of legroom. And when you're 6'4", 28 inches is not enough, and it actually represents a form of torture. Looking beyond the legroom, the seat does offer a clever device holder, as well as a nicely positioned USB port and a tray table. Personal air vents are also offered. A 3-3 configuration, and even though I am the opposite of a religious man, I began to pray that there'd be an empty seat next to me. My prayers were not answered, and the plane ended up completely full. I picked row 37 as I'd expected to be upgraded and hadn't really put too much thought into my selection, except to note that I'd followed Josh Cahill's wise advice that rows towards the back of the plane have a higher probability of being empty if that plane isn't full. Plus I had a longish transfer in Athens, so I was in no great hurry to get off. And by the time I'd realised that an upgrade was not going to happen, all of the extra legroom seats in the emergency exit rows had been taken. Annoyingly, and perhaps also unusually, Aegean charges its premium customers to select premium seats in the economy cabin. You do get a 50% discount as a gold card holder, but I'd not bought one when I booked, as I was expecting an upgrade, and I wasn't confident that I'd have the seat fee refunded if I was, and that's a lesson learned. We took off towards the west into an autumnal afternoon. Always a pleasure to get into the sky. So I was not enjoying my Aegean economy experience, and I had a pretty low expectation of the in-flight service I was about to receive, notwithstanding the suggestion in the intro that things are back to normal. Well, dear viewer, the in-flight service was really rather good. Remember, this is 2022, when most airlines' short-haul economy offering struggles to even supply you with a cup of water if you're choking to death. Service started with entertainment packs being handed out to any kids aboard. I'm 51, so apparently didn't qualify for one, so I can't report on what it included, but it was a really nice touch that seemed to be appreciated. Next came a lunch, yes, a proper hot lunch, with a choice of mains, falafel or chicken. Not the biggest serving size ever, but you don't get a choice of meal in ITA Airlines business class. Hey, you don't even get meat in ITA Airlines business class, certainly not when I travelled. Alongside a tasty salad, it was really pretty good. And then it got even better. The drinks trolley was wheeled down the aisle and it included beer. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, on an economy flight within Europe operated in 2022, I got a free beer. Nectar it was, pure nectar. It almost made me forget that I couldn't move my legs. And believe it or not, the crew was still not done. They came down the aisle one more time with a sesame honey snack thing for everyone. All in all, I have to describe that economy meal experience as having been superb. I should also report on one more positive benefit of flying Aegean with gold status in their frequent flyer scheme, which is that you get free onboard Wi-Fi. I don't usually get excited about in-flight Wi-Fi, as I really like the sense of being disconnected and uncontactable that has always come with being on a plane. I don't get excited about it, and I'm also really stingy, so I don't remember ever paying for it. But as it was free, I did find myself using it quite a lot, identifying features I could see out of the window and keeping in touch with the World Cup game taking place. Not to mention taking my mind off the increasing pains in my legs. I think this is a benefit only for Aegean Gold members rather than all Star Alliance Golds, but I am prepared to be corrected. I joke about my legs, and I could, and perhaps should, have inconvenienced my seatmate by getting up a few times to stretch. So as we come in to land in Athens, I need to tell you about a good friend of mine who recently had to fly to and from the UK from Australia for a family emergency. The only seats he could get at short notice were economy seats on the 18-hour non-stop flight from Perth to London. He's possibly the fittest bloke I know, and he's probably 6 inches shorter than me, but even so, a week or two after getting back to Australia, he was in hospital with a bilateral pulmonary embolus, which had been caused by blood pooling and clotting in his legs when he flew. They caught it before any serious damage was done, but he's still poorly and may have to live with the consequences for the rest of his life. I've been speaking to him just a few days before the flight, and he was at the forefront of my mind throughout this flight. I barely stopped my ankle exercises for the 4 hours I was in that seat. As a data point, it took about 17 minutes for me in row 37 to get off the plane after the doors were opened. And although no masks were required, quite a few passengers and some of the crew chose to still wear them. A word about the crew too. There was an almost militaristic feel about them and the service they delivered, something I've felt on all of the Aegean flights I've taken. They have a lot to do given Aegean's service standards, and their primary job is to keep us safe, so I prefer that mindset over a crew that is frivolous and disengaged, but it is something Aegean could probably work on. So Aegean's economy product is really quite superb, but I will never fly it in that seat again. The legroom is atrocious, and it's really not worth taking the health risk if you're a tall, middle-aged bloke like me. And as my mate in Australia proved, running marathons doesn't exempt you from the risk of clotting. My seat in business class on the return flight had 30 inches of pitch, which would have been perfectly tolerable in economy for 4 hours, but 28 inches is just not enough. I could have picked an aisle seat so I could move around more freely, and I could have coughed up for an exit row, so I'm not being critical of Aegean here. It's a product they offer and a product I bought, but I won't be buying it again, and I recommend you think hard about whether you would be happy to take a seat that cramped if you choose to fly Aegean. Which is a bit of a shame, as the rest of the experience was so good. My mate's experience has weighed heavily on my mind, and whilst I want to share a wide range of seats and experiences with you on this channel, I can't see myself taking many flights with 28 inches of legroom again, even if that means there'll be a number of airlines I won't be able to review. So off into Athens airport, and the video is not done yet. There's one more flight to go, the 1 hour hop from Athens to Rhodes. I arrived from outside the Schengen area, so needed to immigrate into Greece, which was a very quick process, as the agents obviously could process arrivals quicker than we could get off the plane. I couldn't see a shortcut to the intra-Schengen gates, so ended up exiting and going back around through security from the check-in hall. Aegean's intra-Schengen lounge was closed for renovations, so they'd sent me a €10 voucher to spend on refreshments. I'd not read the voucher in detail, so didn't realise that all but one of the venues that accepted the voucher were located landside, i.e. before security. It was all a bit moot though, as the Lufthansa lounge was open, which I could access with my Star Alliance Gold card. I've reviewed this lounge before, and although it was far more Christmassy on this visit, it was still really quite good, even without a senator section. And although the Lufthansa lounge closed at 8, I was directed across to the Gold Air contract lounge to use until my flight left, which had a somewhat less impressive F&B offering, but had the benefit of being almost completely deserted at that time of night. My flight down to Rhodes that night was in business class, as I'd won my €25 bid for an upgrade, so I'll talk in more detail about that flight in the companion video I'll make about this journey, which will focus on my business class flight back up to London. But my flight from Rhodes to Athens was in economy class in a 16-year-old A320. Again, I had to cope with 28 inches of legroom, but with only 45 minutes in the air, it was tolerable. And Aegean distinguished themselves again by offering a snack in economy on this very short flight. So as we descend into a daylit Athens on that flight back from Rhodes, I'll restate that Aegean's economy product is really quite good. I paid £105 each way for these flights, and if I'd paid another £20 or so to access seats with legroom, I would have been thoroughly satisfied with the in-flight experience. And I am very happy with my decision to pursue status with Aegean, as it added significant value to the experience both through the airports and in the air with that free Wi-Fi. So thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. Please give the video a like if you did. Please consider subscribing if you're new. Lots more like this on the channel already, with plenty more coming. And leave me a comment. Have you flown on Aegean? Would you be interested to do so after watching this? And if you'd like to support what I'm doing more directly, I have a Patreon account, the link to which is in the description below. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.